Good evening and welcome to Spectrum Television News at 9. I am Uyai Aniaka coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu promises to digitize public service and surgically apply public money for growth. Reps begin investigation into illegal sale of assets belonging to federal government. Plus, Putin says no new grain deal until West meets Russia's demands. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Good evening and thanks for joining us. To begin the news tonight, the number one citizen of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, has expressed his support for new partnerships with global technology companies to ensure that data from public institutions are accurate and transparent in providing templates on which proper public sector planning and accounting can occur across sectors. Speaking at a meeting in the State House with the Global Vice President of Oracle, Andres Garcia Arroyo, the President welcomed the company's commitment to Nigeria's civil service reforms, process and data management sector, even as he emphasized the need for greater knowledge transfer through the establishment of academies and training institutions in the country, aiming to promote the ease of doing business, digital innovation, effective identity management, efficient payroll administration, and qualitative citizen-centered service delivery. The President cited Oracle's proven success in the automation of the Lagos State's payroll system during his tenure as the Lagos State Governor, and lauded the positive impact of technological solutions in enhancing accountability and expediting timelines for service delivery without sacrificing quality in the process. In his remarks, the Global Vice President of Oracle proposed a comprehensive digital transformation of the work process at the federal level of administration in order to achieve greater macroeconomic visibility, streamline government processes for cost and time savings, and to provide the desired skills development opportunities for Nigerians.
So nowadays there are a lot of examples about how applying the technology could help to the governments. But to go to common sense and to go to some specific examples, okay, we have seen, like, for example, nowadays we are capable to release accurate data, okay, to really review which are the budgets, okay, if already review which is the expenditure and the capacity of expenditure that the government continue has, okay, in real time, and going to a specific process. For example, let's go to the procurement one. So if we could be able to have the visibility about what is procuring the different entities, okay, we would be able to streamline and to save costs. So these are real examples, okay, applicable examples that could bring a lot of value and benefits, okay, to the Nigerian government.
Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has met with the Ministers of Defense, Chief of Defense Staff, and the service chiefs behind closed doors at the Council Chamber of the State House, Abuja. In attendance were the Ministers of Defense, Badaru Abubakar and Bello Matawali, Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, Permanent Secretary, Abubakar Kana, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Lakwaja, his Navy counterpart, Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, and Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar. The meeting was expected to center around the security situation in the country as part of regular briefings by the security chiefs. President Tinubu later in the day led a high-powered delegation to attend the G20 summit in New Delhi, India, where he will engage with world and business leaders to drive investments to Nigeria. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has reassured Nigerians of his determination not to fail the country in carrying out a permanent transformation of the nation's economy to an enduring prosperity. Tinubu said this while receiving members of Tinubu's support organization, TSO, on a solidarity visit to the presidential villa Abuja. This is contained in a statement signed by the national spokesperson of the organization, Frank Eberenjoku, and made available to newsmen in Abuja. The president, who thanked the organization for standing on his mandate, expressed confidence in the capacity of his cabinet members to rescue the country from the present economic quagmire. Elsewhere, Vice President Kashim Shettima has said it is essential for political aides to exercise discretion in both their public and private lives and to avoid any actions that could tarnish the government's reputation. The Vice President gave the charge today during the opening ceremony of a retreat sensitization program on administrative procedure and governance in the public sector. The program is being organized by the State House in conjunction with Direct Knowledge Consult Limited from the 4th through the 22nd of September at the Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja. Speaking to participants, which includes political aides and senior civil servants, on the topic Forging a Path to Responsible Governance, a call to political aides, Vice President Shettima pointed out that the retreat is designed to facilitate their transition and equip them with the fundamental tenets of public sector administration and governance.
From today, your words and actions will undergo more intense scrutiny, occasionally even rigorous criticism. Therefore, it is absolutely essential to exercise discretion in both your public and private lives and to avoid any action or actions that will tarnish the reputation of the government. This retreat marks your first awakening. It provides you with the opportunity to exchange ideas, gain valuable practical insights, and engage in meaningful discussions. You are here to benefit from the wisdom of seasoned experts, whether in the realm of security or public administration. I wholeheartedly encourage your active involvement, urge you to seek clarity, and invite you to share your unique perspectives.
Welcome address, the Permanent Secretary of the State House, Funsho Adebiyi, disclosed that the training was aimed at registering the commitment of the political aides towards actualizing the goals of the President Bola Tinubu-led administration.
To look at how to manage what I call our bosses interrelationship. And not only that, we are here to see what is the schedule of duty of the principal staffs, principal aides of our principals, if you understand what I mean now. What do we do? How do we do it in a way as not to in any way embarrass our principals? Not only that, we are here to also look at relationship with other tiers of government, National Assembly, as well as the judiciary. It is important, we've soon discovered in the course of our lecture, the interrelationship between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. It may sound seamless, but the reality is that one is like a watchdog on the other. How do we manage information? How do we behave? How do we even comport ourselves? What are our dress codes? These are things we are here to carefully look into. Permit me, therefore, Your Excellency, sir, to present to you one of the best aides you can ever have in Nigeria. In the little time we have spent, they have demonstrated their sense of commitment, loyalty, readiness to throw their weight behind the success of our God-given administration in Ghana. Here to look at how to.
In attendance at the event were the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President's DCOS, Office of the Vice President, Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, Permanent Secretary of State House, Funsho Adebiyi, the Director General, National Intelligence Agency, Abubakar Rufai, the representative of the Director General, Directorate of State Services, and other senior government officials. Away from that, the federal government has appealed to the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) to suspend its planned two-day warning strike slated to commence on Tuesday, September 5th. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, made the appeal today in Abuja. The minister promised to attend to the contending issues raised by the NLC holistically if given some time to settle into office. He noted that although the ministry was yet to get a notification of the planned strike as required by law from the NLC, the ministry would be having a meeting with the labor leaders as of 3 p.m. today with a view to stopping the planned strike. Meanwhile, the federal government has issued a 30-day ultimatum to illegal miners to desist from such activities in the country. Speaking during a press conference in Abuja, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, explained that all efforts to formalize unlicensed miners into cooperatives have proved abortive. He further stated that the ministry will review all mining licenses in the country as part of its transformation agenda. This follows the minister's promise last week to sanitize the solid mineral sector by adopting more stringent regulations to create stability. Receiving the Australian High Commission to Nigeria, Leon Johnston, in his office in Abuja, Alake had lamented the impact of illegal mining while pledging to address the situation. He also promises to give priority to investors in the sector in order to improve the economy and create employment opportunities. On her part, the Australian envoy is committing to provide support for the optimization of solid minerals in Nigeria. In the meantime, the federal government has said that the electricity meter upgrade process to be implemented by power distribution companies would not affect the credit unit's balance in the meters. It disclosed this in a statement issued in Abuja by the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency (NEMSA), stressing that the agency would ensure that all electricity meters and instruments deployed in the sector were of the right standard. The Managing Director NEMSA, Aliyu Tahir, disclosed this while reacting to the issue of standard transfer specification for the upgrade of prepaid meters by means of token identifier rollover, which is set for commencement by the power distributors in Nigeria. Tahir explained that in order to overcome the TID rollover occurrence, all meters would require key change tokens with the rollover BID set, which would be provided by the discos. Elsewhere, the delegation of the federal government led by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, today visited the family of Taiwo Akinkunmi, the designer of the Nigerian national flag, who died at the age of 84 in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. It will be recalled that Akinkunmi died on Tuesday after a brief illness. One of his children announced this through his Facebook account. From the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee on the Disposal of Public Property today began an investigation into the Federal Ministry of Water Resources over the disposal of assets belonging to the 12 River Basin Development Authority in 2018. The committee has also summoned 6 notable agencies to appear before it to explain their role in the disposal or auctioning of public assets in their custody. The affected agencies, according to the committee chairman, include the Nigeria Ports Authority, NPA, Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, Nigeria Railway Corporation, NRC, Nigeria Customs Service, NCS, Anambra Imo River Basin Development Authority, Osun River Development Authority, and the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Managing directors of the River Basin Development Authorities in the country who appeared before the committee today said the ministry was responsible for the sale of property in 2018 because the agencies had no governing board. The leadership of the RBDA told the committee that the ministry were responsible for the advertisement and selection of auctioneers who were responsible for the auction of the properties, saying most of the questions about the auction could only be answered by the ministry. The chairman of the committee and House Leader, Professor Julius Ihoneve, APC Edo, said the committee was not satisfied with the explanation from the managing directors, adding that the committee has no choice but to invite the ministry. On judicial matters, the Presidential Election Petition Court (PEPT) is expected to deliver judgment on the February general election on Wednesday, September the 6th. The Court of Appeal Registrar Omar Bangari confirmed this in an interview with newsmen, saying the proceedings will be open to live broadcast by interested media stations. The judgment is also expected to be delivered by election tribunals in 25 states for governorship, National Assembly, and State Assembly election petitions. Recall that the Labour Party, People's Democratic Party, and the Allied People's Movement, as well as their respective presidential candidates, had petitioned the tribunal seeking to nullify the election of President Bola Tinubu as winner of the 2023 presidential election. In another development, 5 names were dropped in the new list of commissioner nominees Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu sent to the House of Assembly. There are Folashade Adefisayo, Solakwe Hammond, Aramide Adeoye, Lekon Fatodu, and Rotimi Ogunwuyi. They were replaced by 6 new names: Afolabi Tajuddin, Akinyemi Ajibotafe, Tolani Sule Akibu, Yekini Agbaje, Iyabode Ayola, and Shola Giwa. Clerk of the House of Assembly Olalekon Onafeko read the governor's letter during plenary today. The Speaker, Mudashiru Obasa, thus directed the screening committee led by the Chief Whip Fatai Mojid to reconvene and start screening the nominees as from Tuesday. The committee is to report back to the House on Thursday. Back on the home front, Governor Moino, who has reiterated his administration's commitment to deliver on the campaign manifesto, met 2 local government areas during the electioneering campaign that culminated in his emergence as executive governor, assuring the people of the 2 local government area on development of road infrastructure and revitalization of the rich tourist potentials to enliven the area and boost the tourism sector of the state's economy. Governor Eno was addressing the congregation at the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria, West Itam Parish, Ikorandem, Itu local government area, where he attended the church service. He stated that his administration has made progress in the delivery of promises made to Itu people, noting that he has annexed the tourism potentials of the area, starting from his visit to the Mary Slessor tomb and other tourist sites in the area. The state chief executive used the occasion to shed light on the palliatives earlier scheduled for distribution to the people as of today, Monday, 4th September, regretting that the state rice millers have not lived up to their promise of delivering the consignment as agreed and gave them marching orders to supply the rice in 72 hours or risk contracting the supply to outsiders. Governor Eno therefore urged the Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Offiong Ofo, to call the rice millers to order and ensure that the commodity is supplied as agreed, warning that the millers should not capitalize on the urgency for the need of the commodity to swindle government. Government House correspondent Jane Uwa reports that in his sermon, the Deputy Clerk General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria, Right Reverend Anefiok Ekop, who preached on the theme, Godliness with Contentment, admonished that God does not intend to keep his people from prospering, but wants them to maintain balance and moderate the tendencies towards unnecessary battles, exploitation, fear, and loss of peace in pursuit of material wealth. The cleric was of the opinion that Akwa would be a better place if people lived with the understanding that whatever they acquire in life loses value as soon as they cease to breathe, and advised the congregants to strive to secure spiritual blessings which will count for them after the present life. In the meantime, Governor Moino has approved the remodeling of the Mbente Primary School in Ifankari in the local government area as part of his Arise Agenda drive of promoting qualitative basic education through rural development. The governor also announced immediate mobilization of contractors to site for the completion of the 5 kilometers Mbiabo-Nkari Road project that was initiated by the immediate past administration. Governor Eno was among dignitaries at a funeral in honor of the deceased chancellor of a former socio-political organization in the state, Ibom Patriots, Obongbasi Inwayen, held at Mbente Primary School ground, Mbente, Nkari in Ini local government area. He assured the community that his administration will work with them to ensure provision of necessary infrastructures as a commitment to his campaign promises and to honor the memory of the departed, who he described as a dependable ally of his government. Government House correspondent Jane Uwa reports that in a message of condolence to the bereaved family, Governor Eno encouraged the family to be consoled by the fact that the memories of late Inwayen's deep impact will remain in the minds he touched across social and political landscapes. Still to come in the news. Apple bends to European Union rules. Stay tuned for details of this and more after the break. Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the news stories. We move to Africa, where General Brice Nguema, who led a coup last week that toppled Gabon's 55-year-old ruling dynasty, took the oath of office as interim president today, promising free, transparent and credible elections to restore civilian rule, but without giving a time frame. He also vowed to amnesty political prisoners in a speech in which he insisted the coup had saved Gabon from bloodshed after elections that were obviously loaded. Alugwe, head of the elite Republican Guard, last Wednesday led officers to detain President Ali Bongo Ondimba Skion of a family that had ruled the oil-rich Central African nation since 1967. The ousting came just moments after Bongo 64 was proclaimed victor in the presidential elections, a result branded as fraud by the opposition. Meanwhile, President Emerson Mnangagwa has taken his oath of office at the start of his second term, swearing to uphold the Constitution. He was sworn in by Chief Justice Luke Malamba in front of tens of thousands of supporters from his ZANU-PF party. Regional leaders, including South African Presidents Cyril Ramaphosa and Mozambique's leader Filipe Nyusi, attended the event. So too was former First Lady Grace Mugabe. Still in Africa, the military junta in Niger has reopened the West African country's airspace again, more than 1 month after seizing power in a coup. According to the military today, Niger's airspace is accessible for both civil and commercial aircraft with immediate effect. It will be recalled that the junta had closed the country's airspace a few days after ousting the democratically elected president in a putsch on July 26, among other things, to prevent the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, from intervening. ECOWAS had threatened the use of force to restore constitutional order if Niger's ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, now under house arrest, is not reinstated. In a related development, the Foreign Minister of France has reiterated her country's commitment to maintaining troops in Niger and keeping the French ambassador in place. The military leadership in Niamey demanded the envoy's expulsion more than a week ago. Catherine Colonna told newsmen that the ambassador Sylvain Ite was the French representative to Niger's legitimate authorities, the deposed government of President Mohamed Bazoum. Colonna was speaking as tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Niamey for a third consecutive day near a French military base. They again called on the former colonial power to withdraw its troops. Meanwhile, France has about 1,500 soldiers stationed in Niger to help quell an Islamist insurgency in the Sahel region. Still in Africa, African heads of state have gathered in Kenya for the Africa Climate Summit, where they will discuss the continent's approach to climate change. Reports say the meeting in Nairobi is the first of its kind in Africa. The aim is to scrutinize common plans to present to other world leaders at the COP28 United Nations Climate Summit, which will be held later this year. Meanwhile, Kenyan President William Ruto called on Africa to be part of the solution to global warming rather than a victim. He said over the next 3 years, delegates at the summit will consider a new funding model to help governments reduce carbon emissions. Meanwhile, the U.S. Embassy in Uganda has warned that there remains a threat of terrorist attacks in Uganda and throughout the region, as Ugandan police evacuated the business center in the capital Kampala on suspicions that there was an explosive inside. The U.S. Embassy has also told U.S. citizens to stay alert and avoid large public gatherings a day after Ugandan police thwarted a suicide bombing attack in Kampala. Patrick Onyango, the spokesperson of Kampala Metropolitan Police, said that the police arrested a 28-year-old suspected suicide bomber before he entered Rubaga Miracle Center, a church operated by the prominent Ugandan preacher Pastor Robert Kanyaja. On the foreign scene, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced that he was replacing Kyiv's defense minister Oleksiy and called for new approaches in the ministry as Russia's invasion enters a year and a half. Reports say Renskov, appointed 3 months before Moscow's invasion, has led Kyiv's negotiations to equip its forces with modern weaponry from allies. His removal comes in the midst of Kyiv's counter-offensive and during Ukraine's general push against corruption in response to EU request. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin today said that the deal that allowed Ukraine to export grain safely through the Black Sea would not be restored until the West meets Moscow's demands to facilitate Russian agricultural exports. Putin made the statement after talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in the Russian port city of Sochi. Still on the foreign scene, French authorities were today imposing a newly announced ban on the abaya Muslim dress for women in schools, with over 500 establishments under scrutiny as children across the country returned to class. The government announced last month it was banning the abaya in schools, saying it broke the rules on secularism in education that have already been seen. Muslim headscarf ban on the grounds that they constitute a display of religious affiliation. Reports say the move gladdened the political right, but the hard left argued it represented an affront to civil liberties. Elsewhere, France flew 5 Afghan women who had been threatened by the Taliban from Pakistan to Paris, where they were due to arrive today. Reports say by presidential order, special attention is being paid to women who are primarily threatened by the Taliban because they have held important positions in Afghan society or have close contact with Westerners. This is the case for 5 women who will arrive today. The women include a former university director, an ex-NGO consultant, a former television presenter, and a teacher at a secret school in Kabul. Meanwhile, one of the women was accompanied by 3 children. The women had been unable to leave Afghanistan on airlifts to Western countries when the Taliban returned to power in 2021. In the meantime, the United Nations nuclear watchdog today said it regretted that no progress had been made by Iran on outstanding issues, including installing more cameras to monitor Tehran's nuclear program. International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi requests Iran to work with the agency in earnest and in a sustained way toward the fulfillment of the commitments. Tehran in March vowed to reactivate surveillance devices which were disconnected in June 2022 amid deteriorating relations with the West. In a separate report also seen by newsmen, the IAEA said Iran's total stockpile of enriched uranium was lower than in May, but still more than 18 times the limit set in a 2015 accord between Tehran and world powers. Still on the foreign scene, 2 people died and 3 were missing today after heavy rains last drought hit Spain, triggering flash floods that closed Madrid metro lines and high-speed rail links. According to the state's weather office, AMET, the weekend storm affected almost the whole country, with the heaviest rains recorded on Sunday in the coastal provinces of Cadiz, Tarragona, and Castillo. 2 people died in the central province of Toledo as a result of a storm. The head of the regional government of Castilla-La Mancha said without giving details. Meanwhile, Spanish media said a man was found dead by police during a rescue attempt on road near the Two of Bagas, while another man died as rescuers tried to reach him in the town of Casabios del Monte. Elsewhere, Britain's Charles III reaches the milestone of his first year as king this week. with his reign so far characterized by a smooth transition from that of his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II. The anniversary on Friday is expected to be marked privately, given the date is also that of his mother's death at the age of 96. Charles, 74, has slipped into his new role with apparent ease after some 70 years waiting as her heir, the longest of any in the British history. But despite expectation of reform, he has not yet made sweeping changes to the monarchy, fueling perceptions that he is a caretaker role before his eldest son and heir, Prince William, takes over. Still on the foreign scene, Pope Francis today wrapped up his visit to Mongolia, where he met with the local Catholic community and representatives of other faiths and called for harmony between religions. The head of the Catholic Church left the East Asian country for Rome after an official farewell ceremony at Genghis Khan Airport. Earlier, the 86-year-old had opened a social center in Ulaanbaatar and met employees of the church relief organization Caritas. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Davina Praise Oman.
Thank you, Uyai Aniekan. Good evening. It is business news. My name is Davina Praise Omang. In the news, Apple's latest iPhone will feature a USB-C charge point when it is unveiled on 12th September. The firm's phones currently use its proprietary Lightning adapter, unlike rivals including Samsung. A European Union law requires phone manufacturers to adopt a common charging connection by December 2024 to save consumers money and cut waste. Most new Apple products, such as the latest iPads, already use USB-C, but the firm had argued against the EU rule. When it was introduced in September 2021, Apple said strict regulation mandating just one type of connector stifles innovation. In Nigeria, an Italian multinational energy company has concluded plans to exit Nigeria's onshore oil exploration after agreeing to sell Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited to Oando PLC. Oando agreed to acquire 100% of Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited for an undisclosed amount, according to a statement by the companies. This means that Oando, mainly owned by Wale Tinubu, the nephew of President Bola Tinubu, will take possession of 4 onshore blocks, OML 60, 61, 62, and 63, upon ministerial consent and other required regulatory approvals, according to reports. ENI is moving its focus in the Nigerian market from the onshore to the offshore segment, as the firm intends to keep its other subsidiaries, Nigeria Agip Exploration and Agip Energy. The Nigerian Exchange Limited NGX recorded 16.388 trillion naira in gains from June to August 31st. The NGX trailed behind the Ghana Stock Exchange to emerge as the second best performing exchange market in Africa in the last 3 months. A performance breakdown indicated that NGX's market capitalization rose from 20.03 trillion at the beginning of June to 36.422 trillion naira on August 31st. According to African Markets, a website that tracks the performance of exchanges in Africa, Ghana Stock Exchange recorded plus 22.84% to emerge as the top stock market performer, followed by the NGX with plus 19.33%, and Malawi, which stood at plus 15.79%. The Nigerian Stock Exchange market. Today is the first trading day of the week and the bulls are back. Compared with Friday's trading day, today's data shows 48% improvement in volume, 88% improvement in turnover, and 57% improvement in deals. The benchmark all-share index increased by 751.95 basis points, closed at 68,279.14 points. a total of 744.75 million shares in 11,933 deals, corresponding to a market value of 12.999 billion naira, were traded. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 37.4 trillion naira. 119 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 38 gainers and 19 losers. Dangote Sugar Refinery led the gainers with 10% share price appreciation, closing at